All right. Episode 2 of No Huddle. Look, we didn't talk about this in the intro, but the reason why we called it No Huddle was because we're going to come into every single episode kind of cold turkey. We have a general topic in mind, and we're just going to wing it as we continue to go. No scripted questions, answers, anything like that. No sponsorship reads. We are literally just here to have fun and chat with you all. First, this second episode here, we are going to chat about our season-long teams. But we have a special guest here. Neil, thank you so much for joining here. If you are on Twitter following the DFS betting streets, props, picks, best ball, you name it, you know who Neil is. Neil, we are so thankful to have you. You are one of our best friends in this space, so thank you so much for joining. Neil, can you tell everyone a little of what you do in this space? You do so much. If you could give like a couple seconds of what you do, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm honored to be here. Of course, I've been looking forward to this podcast to finally come out, the No Huddle podcast. You've been talking about it for a while. I've been kind of bugging you, like when is this podcast going to finally come out? Now here we are, and I'm on the I guess the second episode, back to back going here tonight. But super excited to be here with you tonight. I do mostly DFS content, and I do it all over the industry. Now I had a full-time job last year, so I was just in one place, but now I'm doing DFS content for 3 different sites, and then I also have my own YouTube channel where I'm doing exclusively showdown content for this NFL season. Also did a ton of best ball content over the summer. So a lot of football content generally on my channel. Might expand to basketball this year, but I'm all over the place.
Exciting.
Just to add to that, I'm a normal Joe. I play baseball. I do, casual DFS for NFL. I do, season-long NFL fantasy and whatnot. Neil is a perfect follow for any of that stuff. Any of his information, he's literally one of the handful of guys I have notifications on. If you're into this information in any shape or form of fashion at all, his information is going to be helpful to you. His Twitter is @PlayerQDFS. Absolute must follow, notifications on. Anything he tweets is helpful information for you if you're doing season-long fantasy or DFS. Just wanted to, give you your due diligence. It's the stuff you do is awesome. I've
really appreciate that.
Been a fan for a while. Always love it.
Notifications on that's a lot of pressure on me. I feel like I got to stop shit posting so much if Justin has notifications on or my tweets.
I love it.
So you all might be thinking, all right, so we're doing a season-long episode here, but you got a DFS expert in Neil on the show. Justin talked about this a little bit in the last episode. I think both of us, at least Justin and I, maybe you, Neil, as well, we started in the fantasy football space, and I think a lot of people in season-long football, right? 10 years ago plus, I used to do a lot of season-long football with my buddies, right? As I think a lot of us did. They started asking me questions. They started nicknaming me Guru Drew, hence this Twitter account that I started literally just to be maybe one day the next Matthew Berry, where I could go in and answer people's questions, right? That was my dream. I gave up on that dream, but that was my dream of like, hey, season long is amazing. It's so much fun. It's great for the fans. It's great even for the players, the interaction. It's great for the NFL. And so we are here to talk about season long football. Justin, I want to toss it to you. I know you're in a few different leagues. Could you give us a quick rundown of your leagues?
So I'll give you the Premier League, the Cubs League, the Chicago Cubs League that I'm in. I'll give you a rundown of the teams that are in it, the situations, the standings, how everything's shaken down. In first place, we have Alex Smitty, our analytical genius, very smart guy. He does outfield positioning, just all the smart stuff behind the scenes for baseball. But he's into DFS. He's very smart, knows how to do fantasy football. He actually listens to a lot of the stuff we do. If I'm live on Twitter with Neil or you, Drew, Debro, like he's listening. He's very tapped in. He's in first place, 3-0. So tip my hat to him. Been doing his research. Second place is Nico Horner, who I just lost to. We were both 2-0. I was telling Drew earlier, if I stick to my guns and keep Jaden Daniels and McLaurin in instead of switching it to Derek Carr and Shaheed this week, that I'm 3-0 and he's 2-1. But instead, I switched to Derek Carr and Shaheed because I thought it was the right read. Still think it's the right read.
Sure.
He's 3-0. You go down one more. There's another 3-0 team, Mike Napoli, Hawk Tua. He's 3-0. And then we have Cody Bellinger in fourth place at 2-1. You start the 2-1 teams. Bill Belichick. That's that's Billy's team, Bill Belichick. And then you have me, the SCLSU Mud Dogs at 2-1. You have Frangella and the training staff. That's like the training room. That's
nice. Love that.
They're right behind me. And then it gets to the 1 and 2 teams. You have Kyle Hendricks and VJ, our travel secretary, who handles everything. VJ's amazing. They're 1 and 2. Mike Talkman, he's called the Pounder. His nickname's the Palatine Pounder. He's from outside of Chicago. He's 1 and 2. Michael Bush, our first baseman's 1 and 2. Drew Smiley, 0 and 3.
Oof.
And Aaron Witz, who we call Big Rub. He's our massage guy. He's gonna be working on me. He's gonna be working on me tomorrow since I pitched tonight. Big Rub is 0 and 3. Big Rub is 0 and 3. He is partnered with Ian Happ. Ian Happ is the owner of the team. Big Rub is the GM. And then you have Jameson Talion at 0 and 3 at the very bottom.
Ouch.
He is struggling heavily, and he has made it well known. He is tossed around trades. He is, but by the way, we had a blockbuster trade in this league.
Ooh.
Right before, I knew it. We all knew that Jamar Chase was about to go off. Big Rub traded Jamar Chase for Michael Pittman and David Montgomery. He didn't consult with anyone about it. Didn't come to me about this at all. I would have been like, hey, I'll give you more than that.
Yeah.
I can come up with
pretty easy. Yeah. I'll give you startable players that you want in your lineup.
Yeah. It was, anyways, Smiley happily started Jamar Chase this week. He went off. It's just one of them things we all saw coming, and we move on. But anyways, just to break down my roster in this league, I have Jaden Daniels at quarterback. I obviously just said I didn't start in this past week. Derek Carr's on my bench. I have Travis Etienne and Jordan Mason. I'm going to start Deontay Johnson this week. I have Terry McLaurin, Trey McBride, Ramondre Stevenson, and then right now it's Chargers D. I'll probably get rid of that. Groupie is my kicker. Might change that as well. And then Derek Carr, Rico Dowdle, Johnson with the Rams, Mooney, Debo Samuel, who's hurt, Shaheed, and then Garrett Wilson on my bench. I'll probably end up putting Garrett Wilson back in the starting lineup, but he's going to have Patrick Surtain on him this week, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a good call. Let's start with Jordan Mason. Maybe looking like a league winner this year. Did you draft him? Did you grab him off of waivers?
I grabbed him off waivers, and let me tell you, Belly dropped him.
Oh no!
It might have been before the season started.
Yeah, must have been.
Drafted him and then dropped him for I don't want to be wrong. It was a backup running back. It was it was like Bucky Irving or
it's a good pickup.
It wasn't Braylon Allen. It was maybe Ray Davis. It was a backup running back. Benson, maybe. It was a backup running back. That's all. Yeah, that's all I can remember. If I look at his team, I can probably figure it out.
Yeah.
He dropped him.
Wasn't McCaffrey already hurt before the season?
No.
He wasn't hurt before drafts were being done, so he was just like questionable.
Okay.
So in the offseason, he was injured, but everything pointed to him playing week 1.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. I was on the show when we found out.
He was 1-1 in our draft. He was 1-1.
A couple hours before game 1, CMC ruled out, and Jordan Mason now looks like he's going to start. I mean, look, I think we're only guaranteed 4 games, but now CMC going to Germany to see a specialist. I think we're talking like 6 to 10 games at best. At worst, that Jordan Mason is going to start.
Yeah.
Him going to Germany, and like I think it's going to be a little bit longer than people think. I think it's going to be a process with him going to Germany. He's probably going to be on a protocol. He's probably going to be doing things like a week-to-week basis. like, I don't know how long he's going to stay over there. Like these are all like up in the air things.
Yeah.
If you have Jordan Mason, you should be happy.
Yeah.
Neil,
Jordan
you drafted
Mason
a lot.
now.
Neil, you drafted a lot of Jordan
I was
Mason.
all over Jordan Mason. Yeah, feel very good about my Jordan Mason exposure so far. He is one of those players like in best ball is where I drafted the most Jordan Mason. Like he could be like great to get you to the playoffs and then just be completely a non-factor in the best ball playoffs. But I'll take it. Where he was going in drafts, totally fine with that.
Yeah, that's another strategy that I think a lot of people will do in best balls, and I think people will do it in season long as well. People call it zero RB for people who aren't very into the drafting world. But it's this notion that early rounds you draft high-end receivers, and later rounds you draft a lot of backup running backs, right? And the notion and the thought process is that your first string running backs are going to get injured because they often do because of the position that it is. And those backup running backs are going to be very, very valuable later on. And so I think having someone like Jordan Mason, we talked about another one, Bucky Irving, he now looks like, even without an injury to Rachaad White, that he might soon be the starter or at least the bulk carrier of snap.
On the carry to carry basis, I think Drew's breaking up a little bit. I'll just kind of
workload. There's a lot of validity to zero.
Shit.
Please. Are we cutting out? Oh no.
You were cutting out a little bit.
Second episode, we're cutting out. Oh, my apologies, everyone. We shouldn't see that a lot, but we'll see it occasionally. It just is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue. So you mentioned a couple other players. I wanted to start on the Commanders because Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, Justin, is somebody that you were talking a lot about during the offseason, someone that you really valued, a team that you really valued. Now we are going into week 4 after a great game last night, looking really good. Tell me how you're feeling about your stance now.
I feel really good about it. I'm in 3 leagues and I have Jaden Daniels stacked with McLaurin in every single league. I loved the rounds I was getting them in the drafts that I was doing. I felt like I was kind of stealing them at where I was getting them, especially with the rushing upside of Jaden Daniels. And if you're in a league that's 4-point passing touchdowns, the rushing upside with him is like, I mean, it's up there with like Josh Allen almost. Like, I mean, he rushes the ball a ton, and they have shown that they'll design plays for his rushing. So like that's obviously very exciting. And then they kind of showed the chemistry a little bit, you know, of the Daniels to McLaurin stack. He scored a touchdown. He had 2 big catches, deep catches. There's been a few plays in the first few weeks that they've missed where it was either overthrown or something just missed a little bit. Jaden Daniels has been fighting some pressure a little bit, not able to get past his first read too much. That's kind of where the scrambling comes into effect. But I mean, season long, it looks good right now. I think they're going to be in shootouts. That's kind of the beauty of it. I think they're going to be they're going to be in situations the entire season where they're either behind or the team that they're playing is right on their tail, and they're going to have to keep scoring. And as far as fantasy goes, that's kind of where you want to be.
Yeah, I'm going to reference data a lot throughout this podcast. And one of the data providers that we're going to reference a lot is Fantasy Points, because you can see it probably on Neil's hat. Fantasy Points does amazing data, and I'll talk deep into data in different podcasts and episodes. But right now, on total yards only allowed per game, the Commanders, to Justin's point, are 3rd in total passing yards allowed. And there's a lot of advanced metrics that point to the Commanders' passing defense and defense in general not being very good, which is something that we want to target an offense for, because to Justin's point, there's going to be shootouts and whatnot. Justin, my last question to you on this Cubs league, and then I'll toss it to Neil on what your season long looks like. Justin, you talked about benching the Commanders, your Commanders stack, for your Saints stack. I think this week you might be flipping, and rest of season, is it kind of going to be based off of matchup? What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see as far as how the Saints offense looks going forward. I think that those first 2 weeks, I think those defenses really didn't have an idea of what that offense was going to look like. And I've talked in the clubhouse with guys within the leagues that I'm in. It's like, Yeah, I'm a big diehard Saints fan, so it's like really fun to watch them just run up scores and stuff. But it's like this is a new offense; they haven't seen these players in this offense, so there's going to be an adjustment period. I want to see what they do once that happens. I saw a little bit of it against the Eagles, and what I liked was how the defense held. The defense that showed me that the defense is real with the Saints. Just to get off topic a little bit, but it showed like that's one thing I took away from that game was the Saints defense is real. Going forward, it's going to be interesting seeing how the offense continues to create opportunities down the field with guys like Olave and Shaheed. He missed Shaheed, I would say, twice in that Eagles game that potentially could have been 2 touchdowns. Whether it's pressure in his face a little bit, throwing the throw off a little bit, coverage, Shaheed. He had Olave a little bit more down the field. That was good to see. It's just going to be interesting to see how they continue to expand their offense and continue to create opportunities for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, let's hear about your season-long teams. What you got?
So I'm in several leagues, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of all of them because most of the leagues I would have to like pull it up and look at it to even know who's on my team. I had 2 of my drafts were on the same. Actually, I think 3 of my 5 drafts were all on the same night, overlapping. It was all chaos. I don't even know who's on my team, but I'm actually doing pretty well in those leagues. The only league that I really care about, and I'm not in a Cubs league where I have thousands of dollars on line. I think it's $50 it was the buy-in for this team. So, but it's a pride thing. It's with some friends that I met through my wife. She was friends with them before I was. So I've been in this league for several years at this point, and it's an unlimited keeper league, which means every year you can choose to keep your entire team if you want to, or drop your entire team if you want to. If you drop your entire team, then the following year you're going to have a first round pick and get to choose who you want. So I kind of cut my team down pretty significantly this year for the first time. But I have Kyler Murray at quarterback. Derrick Henry was one of my keepers. James Conner I drafted. Tyreek Hill was one of my keepers. Stephon Diggs a keeper. Drafted Christian Kirk, and this is a league where a lot of the players are not very good at fantasy football. So that's part of the reason I finally decided to cut down, is because in past years I've been so frustrated watching everybody else draft, and like I can't, like, oh my god, I can't believe you let that player fall. Right. It's been so frustrating for me. So I cut down to 4 or 5 players. But the problem was the only people who cut down as much or more than me first had draft picks that were earlier than me, and also they were like the sharper people in the league. The people that are bad at drafting were all behind me.
They had the same idea as you.
Yeah, exactly. They all had the same idea as me, and they all had the same like ideas for who they wanted as me. So Jaden Daniels is actually a huge target for me. I thought for sure he would fall to me. I had the 11th overall pick, which included both rookies and like anybody who was dropped. And I dropped some good players. I thought for sure Jaden Daniels would fall to me, and he did not. I thought Xavier Worthy might. There were several players who I thought might fall to me. Instead, Christian Kirk was the best player available, which was not going well for me at all. I am 2-1 in this league. It's going okay, but Sam Laporta, was one of my keepers. Not looking so great. Zach Moss doing okay. Chargers defense so far, that's just going to be a streamer for me. I don't really care about the defense. I do have, again, it's an unlimited keeper league. I've got Bucky Irving, Blake Corum, Jalen Wright. So I have some big potential on the bench, but honestly, this is the first year that I've been in this league, and I don't feel great about my team. I don't think they're great for this year. Partially, Tua's hurt, and Tyreek Hill, of course, is my star. So that hurts me. I also have Isaiah Pacheco on the IR. So, and I have Christian Watson on the team, and Jordan Love has been out. So a lot of things going wrong with this team. I'm thinking about actually blowing it up and playing for next year. Like I tried to trade. I think I told you guys about this, and Drew thought it was crazy. I'm guessing Steele will feel the same way. I'm not sure though. I tried trading Sam Laporta and Blake Corum for Brock Bowers. I just like making the bet on Brock Bowers being like this generation's Gronk. Like if you can get that kind of, if we can find out this year that Brock Bowers is this generation's Gronk, which I don't think Laporta is that. I think it's more likely to be Brock Bowers than Laporta is the reason I tried to make that trade. It got usurped in my league. We also talked about that's this league where you get a 48 hours after a trade is agreed to. Anybody in the league can usurp as long as one player in the deal is part of the deal. So it was usurped. I didn't make the deal, but I'd be curious to hear Steele's thoughts on that trade that I tried to.
It leads into a question that I want to ask both of you, and it'll help me answer that question, is how concerned are we about Sam Laporta?
Pretty concerned. with I mean, last game, even without Jamison Williams doing much, Sam Laporta did absolutely nothing. So just doesn't seem like he's been a big focal point. They also said before the last game, the coaches said this is going to be a Sam Laporta week. So got us all excited. And then he did nothing. So I'm pretty concerned at this point after it was a focal point last year. Now Jamison Williams coming on. I don't know. Now they just had Ragnow hurt. So now the offensive line gets a little bit worse. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, my only counter to what we saw last week, because to your point, there was talk that Laporta was going to be the guy in week 3. He also got injured, right? He has a low ankle sprain. It didn't remove a ton. His snap counts were like 80, 85% week 1 and week 2, and I think they dropped to like 60% in week 3. So he missed about 20% of his predicted stats, which a decent amount. And then I did watch part of that game, and I know he played through that injury on some of them. I think the element is that there are 4 really good receiving targets on that team that Laporta is just not the guy. Bowers has Adams to compete with, and that's it. And so I get why you would want to prioritize Bowers, who looks amazing. And I could see why Laporta, in an offense that is going to score a lot, but have a lot of offensive weapons, maybe not necessarily the guy that you want. So, I do understand that trade. And actually that brings me into, but Justin, I'll toss it back to you. What do you think of Laporta? Because I know Laporta was someone that you were really interested in this season or in this offseason.
I think season long he'll be fine. He's still. I think the touchdown catches will tick up as the season progresses. I think they'll start looking for him once they're in the red zone, looking for ways to score and whatnot. The first few weeks are definitely a little bit alarming, especially with the injury. It seems the injury is, dampering things a little bit, explosiveness and whatnot. I think if he gets back to where he's 100% healthy and he's running, not thinking about it, he's back to where he was. I think he is an elite tight end. I think he still is what everybody thought he was, what he was last year and whatnot. Maybe doesn't have quite the season he had last year, but if he's still a little bit behind that, he's still a top tier tight end to have.
Here's the crazy thing about tight ends is I think we saw it with Dalton Kincaid. First 2 weeks did absolutely nothing. Last night, we're recording on Tuesday. They played on Monday night against the Jaguars and they destroyed. And Kincaid had a great game and scored a touchdown. Kincaid's already now a top 7 tight end. I think he's 6 maybe. He looks now, if you stack him up against where he was drafted about tight end number 5, right? 4, 5, 6. He's right within that range. If you get Laporta healthy, to your point, maybe a week off and maybe he comes back in 2 weeks and looks good. If you get Laporta back into that mix as the second or third receiving option in a team that's going to score a lot of touchdowns, he could still end up being what you need in order to win championships.
He could. He very much could become that guy. I'm nervous. I mean, I did a lot of bully tight end and like drafting the elite tight ends in general. I'm nervous about the entire position at this point. I drafted Mark Andrews, my highest exposed player. Don't love that. McBride, I feel a little bit better about. I think he's done pretty well. I think his role is legit enough that I think McBride will be fine. But Kelsey, I was not as in on Kelsey, so that doesn't hurt as much. But man, it's just it feels like they're just not separating from the rest of the group. So like Kyle Pitts right now, I think is the tight end 8 on the year or something, some stupid stat like that. And that's just that's not like, oh God, I want Kyle Pitts. Like, oh, I'm glad I drafted him as wherever I drafted him, the tight end 8, wherever he went in drafts. It's more like I should have just waited on tight end. Like that's at this point, that's kind of what I wish I had done, is done more late tight end.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. From within my friends, I'm known as Guru Drew, right? That you got to ask me the season-long questions. And one of the questions that I got this week from my buddy Mike was, is Mark Andrews cuttable? And I think the answer is yes. I hate to say it, but I think the answer is yes. Yeah. Depends on your league. But
depends on what's available. Depends on your league.
It's so tough to say. It's so tough to say, especially if you drafted him. I didn't draft him much in best ball. Didn't draft him in any of my fantasy leagues.
Yeah,
dude, that's so tough to swallow. Like it's especially if you draft.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about trades, and this is something that in text messages we've gone back and forth on, and it's been something frustrating to me. Justin, I think you're known in the clubhouse as the guy who pays attention to football and fantasy football. Neil, you talked about your wife's and your friends' leagues that you are head and shoulders above from a knowledge aspect in terms of what's going on with the football league. I see it within my league, in my fantasy league, that people sometimes don't want to trade with me. Do you guys see that in your leagues? Because my concern is they know that I'm paying attention to what football is happening, not only from a top line down on a Sunday, on a Monday, but I'm also paying attention to the buzz, to the coach speak and whatnot. And if I offer out a trade, the notion is that I know something that they don't. When in reality, I might just be looking to fill in a roster position, right? Do you guys see that as well?
Yes, I do. I do a lot in my home leagues, in the Cubs league. What I notice is guys come to me and ask me questions about what they want to do with their team and whatnot, and then when it comes time that like I want to make a trade, it's like it's happened already this year. Like before, it was like right after the draft, just the way the teams lined up and stuff. It made sense. I had Gus Edwards on my bench. The guy I was trading with only had 2 running backs that he drafted, period. And I was like, hey, you need a little bit of depth. I drafted me and this guy picked right back to back. I took Gus Edwards and he took Brian Thomas Jr. right after me. And it was right after the draft happened. I was like, hey, like, you know, this trade makes sense for both of us. It gives you running back depth. I already have running back depth. I could use some wide receiver depth. But it was like everyone's like, no, don't do it. Like it was just like it's already like he already knows something. But I mean, I wish you would have made that trade. Brian Thomas looks pretty good. But
yeah,
and
Gus Edwards does not.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just, I definitely notice it. I've noticed it in my home leagues, Cubs leagues, but I guess it comes with the territory of like kind of knowing what you're doing,
being an expert.
I can give you a specific example from this past week in that same league that I do care about. So I'm thinking about after all the injuries to my team, I thought maybe I'm just going to cut down and try to get to assets that I think I might want to keep for next year and I might feel good about. And this might have been a dumb trade anyway, but I offered Tyreek Hill straight up for Brandon Ayuk. Immediately rejected. Tyreek Hill for Brandon Ayuk, which I thought was like, I thought for sure he would accept it. Like that's clearly a good deal for you. The same guy then, like 2 days later, gets offered Terry McLaurin for Brandon Ayuk, accepts it immediately. Which I know, Justin, I know you're a big McLaurin guy, but like McLaurin over Tyreek Hill is a choice. He's not a young guy either, so it's not like, you know, from a keeper perspective, he's 29 years old, so he took that deal.
What are we doing?
And then so this is another just to show you how weird this league is and how bad people are at playing it. This isn't really about me not being able to trade, but that trade then got usurped. He traded, or was briefly, it's been usurped again. I forget what the new trade is, but briefly it was going to be Brandon Ayuk for Cortland Sutton and Jordan Whittington. What was the trade that he usurped at that point? So it just got worse and worse and worse. Now we finally accepted another trade that looks a little bit better, but yeah, just auto decline when I offer Tyreek Hill for Brandon Ayuk. So yeah,
did you come back in the usurp process and offer Tyreek Hill?
So it's still going on. It is still not finalized. So I might reach back out and be like, hey, come on. Tyreek Hill is clearly better than what you're getting right now. But yeah, it's just what are you going to do?
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. All right, guys, we're at 28 minutes. We wanted to keep these episodes at 30 minutes. We could keep going all night, but we want to keep these as quick hit episodes. Justin, I'll toss it to you. Any final thoughts as we go into week 4 on your season-long teams?
No, nothing quick. Kind of like you said, we could go all night. I could chop up the slate. I could talk fantasy football, waiver wire, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, Neil, thank you for coming on for this first episode. It really means a lot.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. Really excited to be here for the second episode and looking forward to what you guys do for the rest of the season. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of great stuff on here, so can't wait.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you both so much. I'll close this out right now. Listen in. We're going to record another episode really soon. We'll focus the next one. As I mentioned in the episode 1, we're going to title every single episode on what we're talking about. So tune in on what sounds interesting to you. Thank you guys for joining. See ya.